The weather is miserable outside. It's so rainy and gross. I don't like it. We're in the middle of June. And with that being said, hi, I'm Kat, and today's video is going to be my May wrap-up. Now, I'm sorry that this is coming so late. I do need to be better at planning my videos, especially this one, this type of wrap-up. I hope it still interests you. I hope you enjoy it. And yeah, let's get into it. Now, if you've seen my April wrap-up, this will be the same concept. So I will tell you everything I watched, everything I read, but then I will only focus on my favorites. But before we actually get started, I would like to take a moment and just say something essential. Black Lives Matter. With everything that is going on in the world, in our society, everywhere, it is imperative that we educate ourselves. And when I say we, I am mainly referring to my fellow white people. We have that obligation to listen to Black people, to people of color, whenever they say that we are being racist. We need to listen, we need to educate ourselves, and we need to actually make a change, because if anything is in our hands, this is it. It is our job to go look for those voices that have been ignored for years. I will leave down below in the description box some people who I love to follow, both on Instagram and on YouTube, who have amazing recommendations of amazing books, who have so many important things to say. If you haven't already, and if you don't know them, you are doing yourself a disservice. And this is actually the perfect segue, because the only movie I watched this month was a rewatch, and it was 13th. This movie should be required watching for everyone. If you don't know, this is a documentary that focuses on the United States and the prison system, pretty much. It talks about how the system was created and has continued to evolve in a way that just brings Black people down and diminishes them at the eyes of everyone, incarcerates them, and just robs them of their lives and their humanities. And I had seen this documentary last year. It was my favorite of the year, and although I'm not American, and a lot of things that the documentary talked about were a shock for me, because that's not 100% the reality that I'm familiar with in my day-to-day, I can obviously recognize that there are things that are universal, and that racism is universal in our world. So I wanted to rewatch this because of everything that is going on in the world, and especially because I wanted to share this documentary with my mom. The thing that we hear the most, and that we are the most encouraged to do as white people, is to talk to our immediate circle, is to have these hard conversations and be uncomfortable in our privilege. I wanted to refresh my memory, because sometimes, especially with documentaries, it's easy to be shocked in the moment we watch them, and then it just, you kind of forget, because it's not your reality 24/7. It's by Ava DuVernay, who I love. She is an amazing director. Even if you're not American, even if that's not your reality, I'm Portuguese. That is not 100% the reality of my country, but there are enough similarities where it is important to watch. Now, moving on to TV shows. And this month I watched two. I watched Glee season 1 and season 2, and I watched Trial by Media. I enjoyed both of them. I had this urge to watch Glee, so I spent the whole of the episodes just singing to my computer. Trial by Media is a series of documentaries. It focuses on different trial cases and how the media had an impact on them. It was very interesting, though it was not my favorite. But give it a watch. I still recommend it. And now moving on to comedy specials, which I love so much. And this month, or past month, I should say, I watched Jerry Seinfeld 23 Hours to Kill, which is not for me. Jerry Seinfeld is not for me. I watched Philippe Neto, My Life Makes No Sense. Then I rewatched Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones. I love Dave Chappelle. He is one of my favorite comedians, and I've watched this special before when it came out, but I wanted to rewatch it. It's not my favorite of his, but I enjoyed it better the second time around. Then I watched Peyton Oswalt, I Love Everything, and it was okay. And then the last one I watched, and this was indeed a favorite, I loved this one so much, is Hannah Gadsby, Douglas. Let's take a moment to talk about Hannah Gadsby. So, I had watched Nanette, which was her first comedy special, I think last year I watched it, and I enjoyed it so much. So when I saw that she had a new one out, I was first in line. I watched it immediately and I loved it. And this one is particularly interesting because she had such a huge success with Nanette. People have these huge expectations of you and your work, and it's almost impossible to meet them. So it was very interesting the way that she was able to manage expectations, and I loved her work. I think she has so many important and relevant things to say, but the way she finds to tell her stories is so unique to her. We see so many comedians that are just variations of the same type, but she is very much herself. I absolutely love her. I absolutely love what she's doing. And yeah, if you haven't watched it, I don't want to spoil anything because it is a great surprise. I laughed a lot. I laughed so much. It was great. So if you want to spend a good hour and 15 minutes, I would say, do yourself a favor and watch Douglas. And then finally, the last thing we need to talk about are the books that I read this month. May month. So I need to say that May was a crap month for me in terms of reading. Oh, May was rough. The whole month I wanted to read a ton of things. I had some plans that I was going to read Ghost of the Shadow Market, and that I was finally going to reread The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater because I'm rereading the Raven cycle. And all of that was out the window. I was in a bit of a slump. I ended up reading 8 books, so it was not bad, but I didn't love anything. I read Wedding Toast I'll Never Give, and I listened to that on audiobook. I reread the Isabel Journal, which is an artist book, and yeah, it was fast, and I really enjoyed the illustrations. Then I read I Think I Am in Friend Love With You, which is, I would say, kind of a graphic novel. I read This Is How You Lose the Time War, which everyone raves about, but I have to say it's not for me. I enjoyed some parts of it, but that science fiction was hard to get into. I enjoyed how the story was told, but because it was a short novella, I got the impression that we jump into the relationship and not a lot is explained. That being said, I really appreciated how it came full circle in the end, so I did enjoy that. After reading that, I read Illuminate, which was a joy to read. If you haven't already watched the reading vlog that I made for Illuminate, please check it out. I am so proud of that video and I had such a great time. I'm so happy that I decided to film my experience reading that book because it was such a roller coaster of emotions. It was so fascinating and it was such a unique reading experience. Oh, I loved it. It's not a favorite book, but it was such a great experience that, yes, I need to give it a shout out. Then I read Nice Try, Jane Sinner. I read Exit West. And then finally, we come to my actual favorite book of the month. And it was the perfect thing for me to end May on. I loved it so much. And that is The Female of the Species. I find this book a little difficult to explain. The story of this book is about Alex. Alex is our main character, and she had an older sister who was murdered. So the first thing you see, first chapter, is that you see that Alex knows who her sister's killer is, and she kills him. That's first chapter, the way you are introduced to the character. And bear in mind that she is a freshman in high school, so she will have to be like 14, 15. Then we have a time jump to her senior year, and we see from 3 different perspectives. We see from Alex, we see from Jack, and we see from PK. And all these different characters have a part to play in each other's lives. And I loved this book so much because it was so unexpected. I listened to the audiobook, which was perfect because each character had a different narrator, so it was really easy to identify the different POVs and the different characters. And overall, this book just took me by surprise because, I mean, starting the way we start, you kind of wonder, like, what is this story going to be? Like, where do we go from here? And throughout the whole book, we see a huge talk and a huge discussion about rape culture. We see how certain things are just accepted. It's just the way it is. And this book challenges that a lot. And Alex especially challenges that a lot. The way it was written, the messages that this book had to bring to the table, it was incredible. It is, I would say, not for everyone because of the topics that it discusses. I cried at the end because I was so surprised that the author went there. That's all I'm going to say. I will obviously in the future need to buy a physical copy, probably reread it, because there were some parts that I really want to highlight. Yes, I loved it. I'm so glad I finished the month off with this book because it was a rough reading month. And yeah, that's our video for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and please don't forget to check out the description box because I will have some amazing content creators linked down below, both for Instagram and YouTube. Go check out their videos and their Instagram pages. They have incredible things to say and to show. That's it for today. I'll see you next time. Bye.